have something to do with the hand. I see you guys doing this. All right, guys, come on.
Make you happy though.
Okay, who didn't give me the test? Audrey, did you hear from Maria? You saw I sent an email.
I'm good.
I'm not gonna like it? Steve, then. You didn't send me your video.
I just sent it.
You just sent it? Okay.
Nope. Should be.
He's running for the Senate.
Okay, are we here? I know we're...
Professor. Serious.
Brian, can you hear us? Brian?
Yeah, and that's a nice deal.
I can't believe I did it. Brian?
That guy?
Here.
100%.
Brian? Hello, Brian.
You got the benzene ring, you got the carboxylic acid, and the piperidine ring. I was really in Oregon.
The speakers are on. There you go.
Brian, can you hear us?
So you got your benzene ring, that's the
He's muted, right? Brian, you're muted. Can you hear us?
But the reason it's 100% date is because it has the aromatic benzene with a carboxylic acid functional group off of it, and the other functional group off the carboxylic acid is the end of the hydrogen. It's the five-sided ring. So that's what makes it different than amphetamine. They add the piperidine ring.
Why isn't he here?
With the active site of whatever is activating it, but it doesn't bond completely, so it stays for long.
Yeah, that's not Kendall.
I don't know. Whoever done that.
So now where do I go?
I could show you where the steric centers, the steric secondary centers go.
Can you hear
Also
us?
why that carboxylic acid interacts the way it interacts. Why it basically.
Anybody have his phone number or text?
That was an organic chemistry.
Can you hear us, Brian?
So after Orville 1 and 2, I took physical chemistry, analytic chemistry, and medicine.
Brian?
One for me.
Why wouldn't you say that?
With, yeah, I did.
he can hear us, so we'll start. Okay. So last time we talked about carpal tunnel, and we said that one of the things that associated with carpal tunnel is tingling, numbness, first, second, third finger, half of the fourth finger, Tinel sign, nocturnal paresthesias, all this kind of stuff, and what tendons are involved in it. Four flexor tendons, superficially. So what layers are involved?
Deep end.
Is it? I don't know. It's just we were taking the test and then, let's see.
Can you hear?
He said he can't.
He can't. Oh.
Alright.
So anyway, that's a review at this point. The
Maybe
deep
I'll
and the
just use my phone
superficial
now.
tendons are involved because the superficial ones are the flexor digitorum superficialis, and the deeps are flexor digitorum profundus and flexor pollicis longus. Correct? He can hear? All right.
I don't know.
Maybe
Brock,
one of
you
you
hear?
guys want to get him on your computer? and
I don't, my Wi-Fi is a little suspect.
see? You know, a lot of guys are having problems getting Wi-Fi in
No, I
here.
talked to IT.
Oh, I know they did.
That's.
Okay. All right, so while he's doing that to try to get Brian on, let's continue. We said that there were Heberden's nodes as well as Bouchard's nodules, right? And we said that they were associated with breakdown of the cartilage, and then we get osteophytic activity, or osteophytes are formed, which wind up being calcified spurs, and they wind up being inflamed and painful. Where did we say that the Heberden's nodules or Heberden's nodes were? Distal or proximal phalanx?
Distal phalanx,
Distal phalanx. And Bouchard's nodules?
proximal phalanx.
Proximal phalanx. And we also said that osteoarthritis is disease of the cartilage, rheumatoid arthritis, disease of the synovial fluid. And what else is associated when we look at the hand with somebody who has RA? Besides those nodules, what do they have? Ulnar drift. And they're very suspect to having ankylosis. What is ankylosis? What is the difference between ankylosis and arthrodesis?
Ankylosis is fusion of bones by themselves.
Right.
Arthrodesis is
Ankylosis is fusion of the bones, self-fusion of bones, and arthrodesis is surgical fusion, right? Okay. So,
Yeah, I got it.
Done?
yeah,
Yeah, I did it last time this way and it worked, so
all right, let's
I just
try
gotta
it.
get him to text me.
Because I don't know if Brian still hears.
Hello?
Are you on the phone?
Hello?
What's your name now? I'm sorry.
Dave.
James,
I just texted him the link to the,
he texted me, he said.
I guess we're not gonna be able to.
I'm assuming because snowman is
Do my lecture. So, that's okay. We'll just get out of here, you'll get him.
I'll get him, no worries.
Thank you.
Something posted?
Yeah.
The
close that.
immediately kicked on, it's a guy cold.
All right. Here, so we were at, so we were here when we left,
It didn't go through the text, I emailed it to him.
He emailed it to you.
and we talked about. Yeah, I know. And we talked about, I think we got up to mallet finger, which is, they do a stack splint when you have an extensor lag. Well, it's really not an extensor lag, usually that's associated with weakness of muscles. But you have, the DIP drops off into flexion because you have a rupture of the extensor mechanism. And what they do is they put you in a stack splint. Okay, so here's that avulsed tendon at the DIP. You can see it here on X-ray. Sometimes they have, when we talk about avulsion, an avulsion usually is associated with not only the tendon coming off, but it's taking part of the bone with it. Okay? So this is an extensor, this is an avulsion of the extensor tendon distally, and that's known as mallet finger. This is what they do, put you in this for quite a period of time until you get some healing. Allen test, again, I won't waste your time by trying to get this up online. but Alan's test, you guys did, I believe, in lab. I'm gonna do it this way, you don't really do it this way, but I'm gonna do it this way. So if I ask somebody to make a fist, and I compress both arteries,
You can't
and
hear
then,
me.
excuse me?
This is so-
Can you hear now?
It's like Sprint, can you hear me now? Is that Sprint?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you compress both arteries, what should happen if I compress both arteries and open my hand? Should be white, right? Because of the decreased blood flow. It's going to be extra white because my hand is up and the blood is flowing away. So you don't test it this way, but I'm just doing this for test purposes. So I would put my finger over both arteries. If I was testing a patient,
We're good.
I could put my thumb and my two thumbs over each artery. So we have one on the radial side, one on the arteries, on the ulnar side. But for this demo, I'm just showing you this. Okay, so if I open up my hand, it should be white. And as I release the ulnar side, you should see blood coming to my hypothenar eminence. And then if I release my radial side, you should see blood coming to my thenar eminence, right? So that's I'm sorry, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? Okay. That's the test for the patency of the arteries, to see the blood flow through the arteries, if it's working. Okay, if I have some kind of arterial disruption for some reason, then what am I going to have? Anytime I have decrease in blood flow, what do I have? Ischemia. Right? Ischemia winds up with necrosis over a period of time. So it's not a good thing. All right. ACAN, this is also associated with carpal tunnel, right? It's a pretty telltale sign of somebody who has carpal tunnel, and it's also known as the sign of benediction because of the Pope. The Pope does this. So what's the big thing that's missing? It's an inability to flex these fingers, right? What else?
Profundus is.
So this is a sign of benediction.
You can't extend.
What else? What's the big thing that's missing? An opposable, the ability to oppose, an opposable thumb. The flexor, the opponent's pollicis is innervated by the median nerve, yes? Flexor pollicis brevis is innervated by what? Median and ulnar. Flexor pollicis longus? Median, abductor pollicis longus? Radial, oh my God.
We have to think about it.
What did you have that last week? Tuesday?
It's like a month ago.
It's like a year ago? Okay.
We get 90 seconds of it, Mark.
All the time in the world. A man with the
I think
facts.
next semester, I'm switching labs.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna go into your labs.
But mom.
What do you mean,
No,
no?
She got this.
Because you guys are having too much fun,
Yeah, don't ditch us. Don't do that to us. Don't do me like that.
okay?
You have enough stuff.
Well, anyway, so median nerve damage.
So what you sweat?
Claw hand results, if you have ulnar nerve lesion, you're stuck with something called claw hand, hyperextension of the MCPs, flexion of the PIPs, and all the IPs. Okay, he's just got Betadine on it. But that's a claw hand. It's a non-functional hand. What can you do with that?
Nothing.
It's a claw hand. So ulnar nerve damage. Think about all the muscles in the hand that are innervated by the ulnar nerve. I said think about it. Would you like to name them?
Muscles in it.
What are the muscles innervated by the ulnar nerve?
So much.
Well, he just said flexor pollicis brevis has a half innervation of the ulnar nerve, right? Anything else on the thumb side innervated by the ulnar nerve? Adductor pollicis. Any flexors innervated by the ulnar nerve? Intrinsically? Flexor pollicis, flexor digitorum profundus, right? Innervated by the ulnar nerve? Yeah? I'm sorry, did you get fixed?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
What did they do? I'm just asking for the rest of the class.
I honestly have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if anybody's having trouble, go up to IT after class for your computer. That's another question I want to ask you. I was going to do the test next week, the lecture exam on your computer, as long as your computers work. I will bring hard copies with me if they don't. It's just easier to go through Moodle. Okay, so that's okay with you guys. The practical exam will be in here. I have to still figure out how we're doing it so that you're not all on top of one another. Okay? All right, I'll talk about that later. Wrist drop. Wrist drop, what do you think causes wrist drop? It says it up here.
Radial nerve.
Right, we got a radial nerve that spirals around the radial groove in the posterior humerus. The radial nerve goes through the triceps, through the triceps itself, as well as the brachialis. It changes name when it comes into the forearm. But when we have damage to the radial nerve, we have something known as wrist drop, because the radial nerve innervates all of the extensors. Okay? So this is something known as a cock-up splint. All right, that they usually put you in. Stenosing tenosynovitis, the finger will lock into flexion. It's usually the fourth finger. Sometimes people see it in the second finger. They call it trigger finger also. Okay? The finger locks in flexion and has to be extended manually. So the tendon, what's happening is the sliding mechanism is impaired in the tendon in its tendinous sheath. And usually a nodule will develop in the tendon, and that decreases the amount of space that tendon needs to slide, and the tendon can't slide smoothly. Okay, so that's known as stenosing tenosynovitis. Affects the tendon as well as the synovium.
How does it happen? How does it happen?
They don't know.
Yeah.
No. I actually had a nephew that happened to his thumb. And he would say, it's locked. He was a little kid, you know. He said, it's easy, I do this, it's better. You know. But then his mother said to me, what is wrong with him? I said, there's something happened. We don't know why. We don't know if he was overusing, we don't know exactly why it happened. It eventually went away. Okay? So it's a painful snap or lock, and you can palpate the nodule. So remember, it locks into place, and then you have to manually unlock it. Trigger finger, skier's thumb, ulnar collateral ligament. You've heard these terms. We have collateral ligaments all over. So the ulnar collateral ligament means it's on the ulnar side. Think about using a ski pole. Any of you ever ski? Come down the mountain, you put your hand in the little attachment. So, and when you fall like this. So you put your hand out and you fall with the pole. It's a tear of the ulnar collateral ligament. Okay? So that is known as skier's thumb. The old term for it used to be gamekeeper's thumb. Do you know why? Does anybody know why? Stephen.
No, I have a question. Surprise.
Well, don't question me yet. Wait. Does anybody know why? Casey, do you know why?
Gamekeeper's thumb?
Is it from how they dealt cards?
I'll say something, but you have to take it the way I'm saying it. It's really literally choking the chicken. Okay? Literally taking a chicken and breaking its neck. Literally breaking the chicken's neck. That's why they called it gamekeeper's thumb. Because this part of the ligament, the ulnar collateral ligament, can rupture with the chicken wiggling around and everything else. But they used to just, instead of cutting the chicken's head, they'd break the neck and then cut the chicken's head. So that's why it was called that. Yes, Stephen. Excuse me?
The ulnar collateral ligament, where does it terminate?
There's an ulnar collateral ligament in the thumb also, on this side.
Okay.
Yes, ulnar collateral. This is the anatomical position. Everything refers to the anatomical position. Okay? So you see right here, ulnar collateral. This is the proximal phalanx. Steinbach's disease, another thing, it's necrosis or tissue death of the lunate, idiopathic. Well, I mean, they don't know what the etiology is. Unknown. It can be related to a stress or compression fracture of the lunate, but the disruption of this blood supply will cause the necrosis. All right, you can have pain without having any trauma. Steinbach's disease. Here it is. And this sign look familiar? We talked about Lister's tubercle the other day. So how do you palpate anything? How do you palpate the capitate and hamate? You can see that the lunate is above the capitate, more proximal to the capitate. How do we find that? We flex the wrist, we extend the wrist, and in the crease, in the wrist crease is where the capitate is. Okay? And if we follow that up and go a little bit more laterally, we could find Lister's tubercle. We could also find the lunate. So when we're palpating somebody, if they have pain in this area, could be for several of those reasons. And remember, we also said that Lister's tubercle is like a pulley system where the act as a pulley, where the flexor pollicis longus changes direction. It comes over from the middle over to the lateral side of the thumb to enter the distal boundary. Raynaud's disease we'll talk about more next semester. I just happened to mention it here because it's Professor D'Onofrio has it. Those of you who are in lab with him, did you ever see that he comes in and his fingers are blue sometimes? You ever notice? No? Those big paws he has? He's got like the hand gets blue. Again, it's an idiopathic vascular disorder. The patient will say, my fingers are white, they turn blue sometimes. Sometimes it's definitely associated with cold weather, and it's contraindicated when you're going to use a modality such as ice. And it's sometimes brought about by emotions. Your hands are cold or painful, so are your feet. So whenever you're working with somebody who has a sprained ankle, you want to know if they have Raynaud's disease. They usually tell you because they know that cold affects them in a negative way. Okay? I'll show you some pictures of it. The digital arteries that supply the hand become contracted, and you can see these fingers are white compared to all the other fingers, right? And if you ever look at Professor D'Onofrio's hands, you could see this, and sometimes the nails are blue. Sometimes the distal phalanx, the distal digits are blue also. But ask him next time he comes in and it's a cold day.
My sister has it.
Raynaud's disease. He
Yeah,
has it.
Stick her in a hockey rink for 18 years. Just coming over
Yeah,
and
you stick it,
sticking her butt
I had a sister-in-law that had it, and what she did, she moved to Florida, and when she used to come in to see me, she would always come in with a mink coat, and the first thing she would ask for when she walked in the house was a cup of tea and a shot of brandy.
off. Nice.
It made her feel better, made her hands, made the blood return to her hands. All right, I don't know why this bread is here. This is actually from Lippard's, but I just left it here because I thought it was funny. This is the functional position of the hand. Functional position of the hand is always wrist and slight extension, MCP and PIP's in flexion. Okay? So whenever they splint you or they do anything, they try to put you in the functional position because then that's where you could really use your hand. All right, so we did this today in lab. I don't know if you guys did it, and if you did it, sorry. If you didn't do it, sorry, I should say. Examination of related areas. So we gave an example today, and Dave did a pretty good job. And we said, somebody was a patient and said, all they did is come in and said, I have some tingling here, here, here. I don't know if it's here. Sometimes it's here, maybe it's not, I don't know. I really don't know, it just bothers me. And it tingles and it hurts, and it's just pain in the neck, right? Isn't that how we said? So we said to Dave and the people that were in the labs this morning, we said, what are you gonna do with this patient? What are you gonna think of? Use your methodology to think of how I would treat this patient and what I would look for to rule out specific things, right? So he started. What do you think he did? What do you think he did? Andrew, what did he do first?
Where was the table?
Am I keeping you up, Andrew?
The thumb and then said a little bit of.
Am I keeping you up?
I couldn't see when you were moving your hand.
Here, here,
Okay.
here, sort of here.
They asked about any trauma they may have had, may affect their neck.
So what do you think he did?
Sperling test?
Did a Sperling's test. He did. What else do you think he did? What do you think he did before he did the Sperling's test? Okay, he did a vertebral artery just to make sure that he would be able to move the head. Then he did the Sperling's test, and then he looked further down and looked at thoracic outlet and, first rib. He even said that he's gonna get an X-ray to make sure they don't have a cervical rib. And then he looked to see if there were any scaling tightness, and then he said, well, maybe it's pec minor, and maybe that, right? Didn't you do all that? And then you did the Ruse test, and then after you did the Ruse test, you went down and said, okay, I'll do Addison's test, and then after Addison's test, he went and looked at the pronator teres syndrome, and then he looked at carpal tunnel and did phalanx.
No, you missed some.
Right? He also did dermatomes, myotomes, and reflexes. So,
And then we referred out.
what I'm saying is we need to look at everything. Oh, he also did Sperling's compression, he did distraction, right? Compression distraction in a lateral closed down area, and then he did it in neutral to see if it would provoke the symptoms. All provocative tests. Makes sense, right? Did you guys do anything like that in lab? No. Okay, well, I'll make sure you get a scenario and you guys have to figure out something. Okay.
Yeah, we've gone over all the tests extensively, but.
Yes,
scenarios would be
yes,
cool.
yes, but I'll write out some scenarios that you could practice.
Oh.
All right.
I'll tell my time.
So some sites of pain, if we had dorsal pain, it could be because of the ganglion. We talked about the ganglion, extensor tendonitis, Kienbach's disease, volar pain, ganglion, flexor tendonitis, carpal tunnel, thumb, CMC joint arthritis. Pretty much we talked about those. Radial pain, thumb, CMC, DJD, Decker vein syndrome, scaphoid fracture. How would you assess somebody might have a scaphoid fracture? It's pretty superficial here, right? So what would you do if you thought somebody might have a scaphoid fracture that was undiagnosed?
You give them pressure in the anatomical snuff.
So you can give pressure in the anatomical snuff box, and you can use a tuning fork. Good. Or a TFCC. So we could do a joint, an axial load at TFCC. Remember that the ulnar nerve does not attach to the carpals. It's separate from the carpals. The ulnar bone, the ulna. It also doesn't move when you do this. The movable bone in the arm is the radius, right? Wait, give me a break because I want to give you some jeopardy. Wait. All right, so functional, here. It says it here. We want to maintain, the thumb is in opposition, you want to maintain the web space. So slight extension of the wrist is a better picture. Slight extension of the wrist, flexion of the MCPs and the IPs, maintenance of the thenar eminence and the web space. Thumb in opposition, okay? Functional. All I want you to know about these things, we won't go through every one, but all I want you to know is that there are power grasps and there are also precision grasps. We'll go to here. All right, a power grip. So we'll start here. So the object that you're manipulating with the power grip is held forcefully in your hand while it's moved by more proximal muscles. So this is a power grip, and there are different types of power grip. It uses a lot of force, usually, and the most common are cylindrical, spherical, and hook. Okay, so you could read through this. This is spherical, cylindrical, makes sense, right? Thumb is in one position, the fingers come around, wrap around in another direction. Modified cylindrical is like a screwdriver holding a golf club. Spherical is your hand around a jar or your hand around a ball. These are all power grips. All right, hook grip. This is the important thing. A hook grip is the only kind of power grip that you can have when you have a median nerve injury. Okay? It's the only kind of power grip you could have when you have a median nerve injury. All right? Because with median nerve, you have that thumb opposition, right? So, and here you have fingers that are still working with nerves that are innervated by the ulnar nerve. So that's the important thing about power grips. Precision grips are just fine, you know, like picking up a marble. You see this all the time. They do it in therapy, in sand. They pick up a marble, or they do manipulate fine objects such as a needle and thread, or, you know, things that require really precise movements. And that's all. Just look through these. I'm not going to test you on them. All right, lumbricow grip obviously is one that you should know, because a lumbricow grip involves the lumbricow muscles, and what do the lumbricow muscles do? Flex the MCPs and extend the IPs. So that's a lumbricow grip, right? Okay. Now, all right, who wants to try? Go ahead.
This is cool.
Which one?
Muscles that act on the scapula are 500.
500?
Oh.
Okay.
These are the 4 rotator cuff muscles.
Come on.
Alright, subscapular, teres minor, and subscapular.
Whose team are you on?
I'm on
The blue team.
team 1. Why not?
Casey's team went all by himself.
Okay.
Let's go.
Casey gets the world.
Rest in peace, Alex.
Red, right?
All right, team 1. How many people in team 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Team 1. Team 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, we have to have 8. 1, right?
Small,
1,
we
2,
just
3,
do by rows.
4, 5. All right, so this is team 1. You guys are part of team 1. You're team 2, and the back, you're team 3. All right, so team 2, pick something. Chris,
Let's see, muscle.
500.
What's that? Nerve, blood, what? On the right? What's that column?
nerve
Let's
and,
do, we'll do 300 muscles that act on the scapula.
300. We're not.
500, we gotta keep up. You're right, you're right. My bad, my bad.
the insertion, lateral attachments of the trapezius is the same as the origin. Proximal attachments of what muscle?
Deltoid.
Oh my God, this is easy. This is
What is
easy.
the deltoid?
No, I don't like this one. All right, how do I do that?
Points though, right?
We got the points.
You got the point.
Oh! Damn.
I don't like that one. Oh,
We're still at 500.
wait a minute.
And none for team 3.
No, I'm gonna do a different one. Oh,
No, we're still at 500 though.
oh. What happened to my other one? I loaded 2. I made one myself. The one I made was harder.
Well, we need confidence.
Which one was I just on? This one?
This is the final Jeopardy question.
Is this what the practical something like that?
Dude, weird.
No.
That was the one.
That's the one, but I don't want that one.
So, try next
One
stage.
more.
No, but they're both.
Are they both the same?
All right, wait a minute.
They might be both the same.
Wait a minute. Wait, don't go.
I must.
You can't go.
I must go.
Wait a minute.
Made it play Jeopardy.
I must get a haircut.
Dude, no way. And when he signs his signature, we need a
Well,
magnifying
pretty much
glass.
single leg, but
Yeah, but like, you just
Got that out.
I got a wedding on Friday. I got a little civilized.
All right.
I'm sad about it.
Now let's try
I
it.
won more than me.
Ah,
I missed my quota.
All right. Chris, what are you saying?
we'll try the shoulder again. Shoulder girdle.
1,000.
1,000 points.
1,000, please.
Shoulder girdle.
$1 billion.
Does anyone want to do it, or?
I can,
The team 1 steal?
team wants to.
No, we're not, we can't steal
Team
anything.
1 steal.
Right, so the wrong points, they elevate the scapula, they downwardly depress it, and they add
Flag. Flag on the plate. They
Downward
rotate.
All right, next group.
For the downward rotation with delivery.
Marissa.
Left and effect minor.
Marissa,
Golden retraction.
I like that.
Marissa, pick one. Shoulder what?
Hell yeah.
Shoulder for 1,000?
Play to win.
This is actually the muscle that originates the lateral 35 volts, turns out to lateral aspect of the calves.
I made this one. I made this whole thing. What's it have?
SD all over it.
I made this whole thing up, yes. You want me to send it to you?
Yes, please.
All right. I'll send it, so you answered? Oh.
Oh, you lose the points. Too late. Points for you, man.
All right, let's do one more. Oscar, what do you want?
Let's go, Press.
Elbow 1,000.
Hands for 1,000. I hate hands.
Definitely don't do the original.
Casey's.
You're sick in the head.
It was.
These are the tenants that make the anatomical.
No, but look,
This is a quiz
from
question.
lateral to medial.
Lateral and medial.
Go ahead.
All right.
That was on. That was
See,
on
if I get this wrong, I got wrong.
From lateral to medial.
Okay, yeah. Abductor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis longus, and extensor pollicis brevis.
Oh, I got it right now. I think I got it right.
Yeah, I think I got it a little bit.
Does it go longest?
Oh, I didn't.
It's longest, brevis, longest.
Damn it.
All right, Andrew, go ahead.
I might have got it right. I think I
Yeah,
got it right.
yeah.
Go longest and brothers.
I'll take risk.
Because why wouldn't it be long?
Wow, you guys are,
I wrote long, short.
oh, this is easy.
This is not a 1,000-point question.
No, it isn't.
on, man.
This is on you, man.
I wrote this a couple years ago.
Go
ahead.
Trapezium, trapezoidum. They don't televise these.
Take another one. That was easy.
That should be a 100-point question.
Shoulder girdle for 900. This muscle.
Any takers?
Oh,
Anybody?
I got a guess. Major?
Let's go.
All right, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
And I'll send you bingo.
Mrs. Trebek, thank you.
Oh, what a shame.
So upset.
Too easy. These are the questions they don't even televise on television.
I have questions.
About my form.
So,
I want you to tickle my brain next time. Really
Yeah.
so two things. One, I just reached out to my grad. Third thing, I want to get that